A 73-year-old retired janitor finds $50,000 cash in a paper bag while cleaning a parking lot and immediately turns it in to police. But when he gets a parking ticket the same day and faces Judge Frank Caprio, something extraordinary happens that will restore your faith in honesty and prove that good deeds never go unrewarded. This is Frank Romano's story, and it reveals what happens when genuine integrity meets Judge Caprio's legendary appreciation for people who do the right thing when nobody's watching. Let us know where you're watching from today, because this story about old-fashioned honesty resonates with viewers everywhere who believe character still matters in today's world. Wednesday afternoon, 2:15 p.m. Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio reviews his docket, including several parking violations. One case catches his attention. Defendant made local news for returning found money. Community interest high. The citation: Frank Romano, age 73, cited for overstaying a meter downtown. But the police report tells a remarkable story that occurred hours before the parking violation. Frank's letter explains: Your Honor, I know I overstayed the meter and I take responsibility. But I hope you'll understand I was distracted because earlier I found a large sum of money and was trying to get it to police quickly. Frank Romano enters with humble dignity, wearing his best shirt and tie, clearly treating the court with respect. He spent 42 years as a janitor for Providence schools, married to Rose for 51 years, with 3 children who all became teachers. Good afternoon, Mr. Romano. Judge Caprio begins respectfully. I've read about your actions in the police report. Before we address your citation, tell everyone exactly what happened. Frank approaches nervously, but willing to explain. Your Honor, I was cleaning the parking lot behind Tony's restaurant when I found a brown paper bag under a dumpster. When I opened it to see if it was trash, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was full of cash. The courtroom grows quiet. I counted it. $50,000 in $100 bills. My first thought was that somebody was probably frantic looking for this money. Maybe their life savings or money for medical bills. So, what did you do, Mr. Romano? I finished my work and drove straight to the police station. I told them exactly where I found it and asked them to please find whoever lost it. The desk sergeant said most people would have kept it, but I told him that's not how I was raised. Frank's simple explanation reveals extraordinary moral character. I got the parking ticket because I was so focused on getting the money to police that I forgot to put quarters in the meter afterward. I know that's no excuse. Judge Caprio examines the report, showing deep respect. Mr. Romano, the report says you refused any reward when you turned in the money. Is that correct? Frank looks confused. Your Honor, why would I want a reward? Judge Caprio looks directly at Frank with a respect reserved for heroes. Mr. Romano, in 47 years on this bench, I rarely see the kind of integrity you displayed this morning. Frank shifts. Your Honor, I don't understand why everyone's making such a big deal. I just did what any honest person would do. The courtroom recognizes something special. A man so genuinely moral, he can't understand why his actions seem extraordinary. Mr. Romano, have police found the owner of this money? Frank's face lights up with genuine concern. I called them this morning. They said they had a lead. Someone called about losing money near that restaurant. They're verifying it's really theirs. Judge Caprio leans forward, intrigued by Frank's continued concern. You called to check on progress. Most people would consider their duty done. Well, Your Honor, I keep thinking about whoever lost that money. $50,000. That could be somebody's life savings. Money for their children's college or medical bills. I can't stop worrying about them. Frank's ongoing concern reveals the depth of his character. My wife Rose and I talked about it all night. We wondered if it was an elderly person who maybe hid money at home, and it got thrown away by accident, or somebody carrying cash to buy a car. Mr. Romano, I have to ask, didn't you and your wife ever consider what $50,000 could mean for your family? Frank's answer reveals his moral foundation. Your Honor, Rose and I raised 3 kids on a janitor's salary. We taught them you don't take what isn't yours, no matter how much you need it. How could we keep money that belonged to somebody else and still look our children and grandchildren in the eye? Besides, we've been blessed with good health, a roof over our heads, and children who turned out to be good people. We have enough. Somebody else was missing $50,000. We couldn't sleep knowing we had money that might save someone's home or pay for their medicine. Judge Caprio stands moved by Frank's values. Tell me about the values that shaped you. My parents came here from Italy with nothing, Your Honor. They worked multiple jobs, saved every penny, and always told us that our reputation was the only thing we truly owned. They said, "Rich or poor, you can always choose to be honest." And you've, Judge Caprio, positions himself to address not just Frank, but the broader principles his actions represent. Mr. Romano, what you did represents something we don't see often enough. Absolute integrity without any expectation of reward or recognition. Frank looks uncomfortable with praise, but Judge Caprio continues. You found $50,000, and your immediate thought wasn't about what it could do for you, but about reuniting it with its rightful owner. Judge Caprio returns to his bench with determination. Mr. Romano, regarding your parking violation, the fine is dismissed completely. Frank looks surprised and grateful, but Judge Caprio isn't finished. More importantly, I want to use this courtroom to recognize the character you've displayed. In a world where we often hear about people's worst behavior, you've shown us what human beings can be at their best. Your first instinct when you found that money wasn't to look around and see if anyone was watching. It wasn't to rationalize why you might deserve it. Your first thought was about the person who lost it and how worried they must be. That kind of integrity, that automatic response to do the right thing is what holds communities together. It's what makes civilization possible. Frank nods slowly, beginning to understand why his act resonated with people. Your Honor, I still think any decent person would have done the same thing. Mr. Romano, the fact that you believe that shows exactly why you're the kind of person who would return $50,000 without hesitation. Judge Caprio reaches into his desk. Mr. Romano, I want to present you with a commendation from this court recognizing your outstanding display of civic virtue and moral character. Frank accepts the certificate with humble gratitude. Your story is going to be shared far beyond this courtroom. You've reminded all of us what it means to be a person of integrity. Frank's eyes well up with emotion. Your Honor, if my doing the right thing encourages even one other person to be honest, then all this attention will have been worth it. If you're inspired by people like Frank Romano who still believe in doing the right thing, hit that like button and tell us where you're watching from today. Frank stands as a recognized symbol of integrity rather than just another defendant. Your Honor, Frank says, I never expected that doing what I was taught as a child would bring me to a courtroom to be honored instead of punished. Mr. Romano, you've given everyone a reminder that character still matters, that integrity still exists, and that there are still people who do the right thing simply because it's right. Your Honor, my wife Rose always says that we're only as good as what we do when we think nobody's looking. I guess this time the whole world was looking. Judge Caprio looks toward the gallery where Frank's family sits. Mr. Romano, I understand your wife Rose is here today along with some of your children and grandchildren. Frank waves to his family. In the family that shaped his character. Your Honor, they're the ones who deserve credit. Rose has been my moral compass for 51 years, and our children learned integrity from watching her. Judge Caprio gestures for the family to approach. Mrs. Romano, would you join your husband? I want to recognize the family that raised a man with this kind of character. Rose Romano, 71, approaches with their adult children and grandchildren moved by recognition of values they've lived by their entire lives. Mrs. Romano, Judge Caprio addresses Rose directly. Your husband credits you with being his moral compass. What do you want people to know about the values that guided your family? Rose speaks with dignity. Your Honor, we always taught our children that you don't get to choose whether good or bad things happen to you, but you always get to choose how you respond. Frank chose correctly. Mr. and Mrs. Romano, your example represents the best of what families can be. Frank's eldest daughter, a school principal, steps forward. Your Honor, watching my parents teach us right from wrong wasn't always easy when we wanted things we couldn't afford. But now we understand they gave us something more valuable than money. They gave us character. Judge Caprio addresses the courtroom. His words meant for everyone who will hear Frank's story. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed today is why I've spent 47 years in this courtroom. Not to punish people, but to recognize and celebrate the best of human character when I encounter it. Mr. Romano found $50,000 and never considered it might belong to him. In a world where we often hear about people's worst impulses, he reminds us that integrity isn't dead. Where are you watching this from today? Drop your city and state in the comments, because stories like Frank's prove that character and decency exist in every community across America. The media often focuses on scandal and corruption, but here's a man who exemplifies the quiet heroism of daily honesty. Frank Romano represents millions of Americans who do the right thing every day without expecting recognition. This family has built their legacy on values that seem simple but are apparently rare. Honesty, integrity, concern for others, and the understanding that character matters more than comfort. Mr. Romano's story has already begun inspiring others in our community. The police department has received calls from people wanting to return items they found. Local businesses are talking about his example with their employees. When one person chooses integrity, it creates ripples that touch countless other lives. Frank Romano's decision to return that money will inspire honest acts by people he'll never meet. The Frank nods humbly. Your Honor, if my story encourages parents to teach their children about integrity, or helps young people understand that character is more important than cash, then I'm glad this all happened. As the session ends, Frank Romano leaves not just with a dismissed parking ticket, but with recognition as a symbol of integrity that communities desperately need. Judge Caprio's recognition demonstrates what's possible when our institutions celebrate virtue instead of just punishing vice. And when people in positions of authority use their platforms to amplify messages of hope and integrity. Frank Romano's story reminds us that integrity is universal, that doing the right thing never goes out of style, and that the most powerful force for good in any community is ordinary people choosing to be extraordinary through simple acts of honesty. Here's the question for all of us. When faced with the choice between easy money and hard integrity, do we choose like Frank Romano, or do we find ways to rationalize taking what isn't ours? Frank learned that doing the right thing when nobody's watching sometimes results in the whole world watching, and that living with integrity creates a legacy more valuable than any amount of money. If Frank Romano's story inspired you to believe in the power of honest character, subscribe for more Judge Caprio wisdom and share in the comments about a time when someone's integrity made a difference in your life. The next time you're tempted to take a shortcut or keep something that isn't yours, remember Frank Romano.